Nutella. This is basically every kid's dream. Almost all of you watching this probably grew up eating Nutella. I know that I was definitely addicted to this stuff. But when you boil it down, it is simply just a hazelnut spread. Then I did some research and it turns out that this is only 13% hazelnut. I really do like hazelnuts, and that kind of got me thinking, can I make this at home? And most importantly, can I make it even better? That's what we'll find out on our first installment of Homemade vs. Store-Bought, where we'll be finding out whether making something at home is actually better. If you have any other things you want me to try comparing, please let me know in the comments below. It's actually surprisingly quick and easy to make, so without further ado, for the homemade Nutella, you need to make sure to violently toss your hazelnut in the blender so that you can pick up half of them from the floor. For this instance, I was using roasted peeled hazelnuts instead of raw hazelnuts. You could roast and peel them yourself, but first of all, it's already quite annoying to roast and peel a bunch of hazelnuts. Also, all I could find at the major stores were the roasted and peeled kind, so might as well just save ourselves some time.
Good job!
Then, blend up the hazelnuts until they release their own oils, and eventually they'll start to turn into a paste. It's a very similar process to making homemade peanut butter. As usual, I ran into a slight issue. My blender was too big, so the blended hazelnuts were just sticking to the side. I tried scraping and scraping, but it was to no avail. So my recommendation is that if you have a blender which is on the bigger side, use more hazelnuts than I did. Once blended, add 35 grams of cocoa powder, 50 grams of powdered sugar, a teaspoon of melted coconut oil and a teaspoon of melted butter, some vanilla extract, and salt. On a whim, I also decided to add some espresso powder, as it is said to greatly enhance the chocolate flavor. Once blended, the mixture will turn into a dark, thick paste. In order to make the mixture smoother, we're actually adding some chocolate. I would recommend a milk chocolate since the mixture is already so dark. And at this point, we're basically done. The last thing we need to do is slowly add some water as to replicate the Nutella consistency. And that's it. I present to you homemade Nutella. So finally, we're ready from the homemade Nutella. This is the store-bought Nutella, and this is the homemade Nutella. From the appearance-wise, it's kind of similar, yet this has a more dark color. When I added the cocoa powder, it really took a dark color for some reason. Other than that, I can see that this one has more specks in it. That could be because maybe the processor isn't good enough to really blend up the hazelnuts really well. But apart from that, I can't really notice any noticeable differences. But let's see how they compare with the taste.
Thank you.
Du har velat alla dagen?
Yes.
Just go Ilias. It's harder than I remember.
Nutella.
Smooth, iconic.
Smooth is the لو حاجة اللي تجيلي في مخي. Line. Alright.
If you didn't notice, we're finding it kind of hard to describe homemade Nutella. It's just such a classic flavor that everyone knows of, and we couldn't really think of any adjectives that weren't already very obvious. It's Nutella. It's carried by its nostalgia. It's sweet. It barely has any hazelnut flavor, and dare I say it, it's kind of mid. You weren't pretty impressed, Nasir.
With normal Nutella, la.
Texture is different, eh? Ooh, it's more loose.
Much stronger.
But
أولاً.
it's salty.
أيوة.
Għandu dawk il-chunks ta' salt. But texture aħjar.
Aktar creamy żgur. Jidher aktar creamy.
Chunky dejjek.
Ja.
Hey, it provides a nice little texture. Here, by chunky, I just mean the specks of hazelnuts left in the Nutella, in the homemade Nutella, that I mentioned earlier when I visually compared them.
I mean, very smooth or chunky, it's preference, yeah. Ma tagħmilx differenza neċessarjament.
Hazelnut temma ħafna aktar. Ġetwan.
Hazelnut tidha ħafna aktar prominenti.
So, is it worth making Nutella at home? In my opinion, definitely. This is due to two main things. Firstly, It's really easy to make. It takes like 10 minutes and the ingredients are easy to find. The only painful thing about making it is the cleanup. But then there's the second reason why I recommend making this. It is because it tastes so much better. It's more complex. You can actually taste the hazelnuts instead of just straight up sugar. Also, I like the texture more and you can adapt it to your liking. If you want it to taste more like hazelnuts, you can even add more hazelnuts. You could even go crazy and add white chocolate. Why not? So for the first installment of Homemade versus Store-Bought, Homemade definitely takes the win. If you like this type of video, you could leave some suggestions in the comments below. Also, it would mean a lot if you could like and subscribe.